So last year when I was helping Heath, we cracked this off right here in the trees, and it's held pretty well until just recently, and it started leaking again. Look real close, you can kind of see a pinhole. I've ground it all the way now. You see that little pinhole and one right over here. And eventually, slowly, that worked its way out and started seeping again. So now I've got it all fully ground off, taken off of the machine here. So we're gonna go ahead and hit it with the welder. I couldn't do that on site very well. So we're gonna go ahead and weld up a nice bead across that all the way around and see if we can get it all sealed up and finished, fixed, so that it's ready to go for the season.
Last fall when I cracked that fitting, I brought the torches over and just did a field repair, brazing the fitting to get it back in working order so we could finish the job. Since it had begun leaking again, I wanted to take the time to grind off the brazing and weld it up for good this time. But as soon as I started welding, the puddle didn't look right and I blew a hole through. So I started chipping away at the slag and looking closer at the weld. What I found was a hairline fissure in the new weld where the brass was starting to come in and contaminate the weld. It was really weak and just immediately cracked. So I decided the best way to fix this was to cut all of that off and start again fresh with clean steel against clean steel to ensure a good solid weld. Brazing it in the field last fall was actually the second time I repaired this fitting. The first time happened a year prior to that, when I was coming down the mountain preparing the way for our water well supply line. At the steepest part of the path, my track carrier roller had come apart, causing my track to get loose and therefore come off on the left side.
Just a swab to keep it from getting full of metal.
Oh, did you put it there?
Yeah, I stuffed it, rolled up and stuffed the cardboard in there to keep it from getting a bunch of metal down in it and stuff.
Okay.
Those metal filings are hard to get out, and they'll tear up that cylinder in a hurry. So
when that track came off, the one side of the machine essentially freewheeled down the hill, and I ended up hitting that fitting up against a large tree as I came down. If you haven't seen it yet, I have a much older video called Crashing My 308 Cat into a Tree when the track came off. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video for any of you that want to watch it. A year and a half later, in hindsight, it's actually pretty entertaining.
I think we got her fixed now. I'm gonna let that paint cure for a little bit before I button it back together. Finish cleaning up a little bit. Might go ahead and get the rear cab glass replaced while I'm at it. That was another thing I broke when I was over there. I rotated and got it against a tree branch and popped it loose. Been waiting for either a finish shop where I can bring it in and heat it up to do that glass, or for warmer weather. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim that all out, and I'll get that glass glued back in, and then I'll hold it in with masking tape just to hold it in place as everything sets and cures, and that way then it'll be good to go. That'll take a lot of the noise off of the back of my head when I'm running the machine.
I ordered the glass last fall, and like I said, I've been waiting for the right timing or weather to get the glass installed. So now, as the weather's warming up substantially and everything's drying up very quickly, we're gearing up to do a bunch of excavation work. That meant that now is the time to get a couple of these repairs out of the way and make sure that this thing was ready to go to work. Several years ago, I was watching an auction where they were trying to sell this ripper tooth. I told Ola that I was going to watch it and bid on it if it didn't get very expensive. Her response was simply, "Well, do you really need it?" And I said, "Yes, I do." She says, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I definitely need this ripper tooth." So she conceded, and I went ahead and bid on it. I ended up paying only a few $100s for it. But anytime I have to pull out trees, or I have to do a lot of digging in some really rocky or bouldery soil, then this ripper tooth is worth its weight in gold. For trees, it allows me to rip through the ground near the trunk and pull through the roots to loosen them up. Then I can also break the trees at a nice fine point real easily to length if I need to get them maneuvered into positions. If it's heavy soil with a lot of rocks, it allows me to rip through there and loosen everything up first, and then all I have to do with the big bucket is simply scoop up the material to move it. Needless to say, we're both very pleased that we made that purchase. In fact, now, Ola affectionately refers to it as the claw, and then we usually have some kind of laughing joke after that in reference to a Disney Pixar movie. bought this electric chainsaw that uses our cordless tool batteries. Ola really loves using it because it's lightweight and a lot less intimidating than a big gas-powered chainsaw. Now, it's not a direct replacement for that chainsaw, especially in a big pile like this, but it lets her get a lot of work done on her own without having to worry about that big, heavy, gas-powered chainsaw. Because it's so much lighter and quieter, she can use it with a lot more confidence, which always translates to a much safer operation. So when we get an operation like this going, where we're trying to process all these trees into good usable firewood, it's a really, really helpful tool, because then she can use that chainsaw, or the boys can, while I use the big gas-powered one, and between the two saws, we can make pretty quick work of a pile like this.
Come all you young rounders, and a story I'll tell of the promise of heaven and the warning of hell. But take heed where you ramble, or too soon you will go. Way up on the hillside where the new flowers grow. Well, he met in the springtime, the sun sinking low. Two star-crossed lovers in the still melting snow, where the loving was easy and the courting was brief. Well, they called her a beauty, they called him a thief. In the quiet of the evening, they'd steal away, where the laughter would flow and the fiddle would play. Well, the folks called it wrong, but hell, it seemed alright. In the sun-painted picture, and the day turned to night. Come up on the hillside, we'll have a time. If you'll bring the kisses, honey, I'll bring the wine. Keep your heart guarded, or too soon it'll fall. When one walks back home, honey, only one knows it all. Well, she walked up the hillside alone one day, and the heart is a hunter, always knows of its prey. And her father's old pistol hanging loose by her side. When she aimed once, she never shot twice.
Over the years, we've kind of worked out a system that works really well for us when it comes to processing big piles of wood like this. Generally, what we do is take anything that's about 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter or larger, and we cut those into 6 to 8 foot lengths. We stack those up on the pallet forks and then take all the remaining limbs and stumps and pile those up for a burn pile. The 6 to 8 foot logs go up into a large stack where they can dry out slowly. Eventually they get cut up and split and stacked into firewood once they've seasoned and dried fully. We just simply find that having them in 6 to 8 foot lengths while they're seasoning initially is a lot easier to manage the pile. If for any reason we ever have to move that pile, then it's a one-man operation with the tractor and the forks to simply scoop into the pile and pick it up to relocate it.
I'll always remember, and back up the hillside where the new flowers grow. Back up the hillside where the new flowers grow.
Now that we had cleared some room and had cut in the new garden access path, I wanted to make sure to get a chance to get in here and till the garden spaces. That's also on our agenda for the next week, is to get everything planted. Several days ago, I had brought down several scoops of composted manure from our big pile up on the hill and spread it out here on the garden. Everything finally dried up enough that I could get in here with the tiller to get it all prepared. This garden access path was originally built as a trail for us to use to get from the pavilion here up to our little cabin when we would come up and stay for the weekends. Now that we live here and have established our gardens in that open clearing, its primary use has become to access the garden. The only problem was that it started at the pavilion and came through the trees to get up through that clearing, meaning in order to use it, you had to drive up between the fire pit and the structure and carefully weave your way through the tree path in order to get up into the garden. And that's not a very effective way when I'm trying to bring the tractor through to deliver compost. That was the main reason behind changing this access point. We wanted it to be a lot more streamlined and easy to get in, with a lot less risk. And since we now use this pavilion as a rental campsite, we decided it would be a good opportunity to expand the tent area and do a little bit of hardscaping and beautifications on the camp area.
Standing right over here where you can see the dirt, and the reason why we took it out is because most of it was already dead, and we just needed to make that corner with trailers and stuff. It was kind of tight, so we took it out. So we're gonna actually place it over here like a bench so it could dry. But look at the color of the juniper. Like, this is the shavings, like it's like maroon red, and it like smells really good. But look at the color of the juniper. Isn't that just so beautiful? We were thinking about cutting 6 inches off of that, see if we can maybe use our lathe and make maybe a big bowl or something like that. So Mark is coming down with the excavator to place it between the trees over here. There you are. Look at that. That's exactly how I wanted it.
Eventually, we'll probably take that large juniper log and sawmill it down into board planks. And as for this stump, I'm going to bang out the dirt so that I can burn off the root ends. Once I've got it down to just the stump, we may keep it around for some fun project in our new shop.